talking about the comptroller and the treasurer here in the city of Harvey. Now, many times I hear where someone will say that we have not had a report, that this administration has stopped the current treasurer from being able to make a report. And it is important that those reports are made, and it's important that we have that financial transparency. But what I also believe is that many times people don't have the full knowledge or scope of what's supposed to be taking place in the city of Harvey. So instead of me just talking about how I feel about it, I figured we'd let the presentation speak for itself. Now, for those who may be watching from outside, there's a warning. Following may or may not apply to your municipality. So if you're not sure of your municipal laws, please seek your municipal code or see your municipal attorney. So let's talk about the comptroller, treasurer, and the City of Harvey Municipal Code. Starting off with the City of Harvey Municipal Code, we have to get the first thing established, and that is the mayor. As you can see, as it reads, the mayor, in addition to the duties, powers, and functions vested by him by statute, as the chief executive officer of the city. Repeat that, the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, and those specifically vested in him by provisions of this code shall have the authority to act to designate an officer who shall act in the enforcement of ordinance of the city in cases where the ordinance fails to specify the officer who shall be charged with the duty of enforcement. Now, within that executive duty, there's an executive department. These are taken directly from our municipal codes. And at the top, you see where it says the particular code. An executive department is hereby established within municipal government of the city, designated as a finance department. So at some point in time, actually it looks like it was 1995 when you look down at the bottom, people before me decided that they were going to designate a finance department, and that this department would include the offices of the city comptroller and the city treasurer, and any assistance to the comptroller as may be allocated by the annual appropriations ordinance. So as we move on, our code starts to tell you a little bit about what the comptroller is supposed to do. So it says that the comptroller is elected, but before we go there, now we're skipping a little bit, because this goes back to Illinois statute, and not just the municipal code for the city of Harvey. This is Illinois statute. It says if a comptroller is elected or appointed in a municipality, the corporate authorities by ordinance or resolution may confer upon the comptroller the powers and provide for the performance of the duties that the corporate authorities deem necessary and proper. This is what the state code says, the state statute says. So if we go back to the City of Harvey code, the City of Harvey in 1995, once again, well before this administration, said, there is created the office of the city comptroller, who shall be head of the Department of Finance and shall have management and control of all matters and things pertaining thereto. The comptroller shall be appointed by the mayor, by and with the advice and consent of the city council. This was 1995. The comptroller shall be the fiscal agent of the city, and as such shall be charged with and shall exercise general supervision over all officers of the city charged in any manner with the receipt, collection, or disbursement of city revenues, and all funds required to be in the custody of the city treasurer. So basically, whatever monies or funds that were supposed to come in, that were supposed to go to the treasurer, comptroller as the fiscal agent of the city has general supervision over all of that. Comptroller also got some additional duties as well. Contracts, judgment orders, notes, bonds, evidence of indebtedness belonging to the city. All of these things were basically put into our code somewhere in 1995. You shall have the authority to execute in the name of the city all necessary releases of claims, settlements, which have been legally authorized. All of these things are in our code. And all of the provisions of this code relating to the powers and duties of the municipal court in connection with the finances, the treasurer, the collector, and the receipt and disbursements of money shall be exercised and performed by the comptroller if one is elected or appointed. So what have we learned so far? Well, we've learned one, that the mayor is the chief executive of the city. Two, under the mayor, there is an executive office called the Finance Department. Three, that Finance Department includes two primary people, the comptroller and the city treasurer. Now, the comptroller is the head of the Finance Department. I'll repeat that because sometimes people are saying that the treasurer is the head of the department. No, according to our code, the comptroller is the head of the Finance Department. And the comptroller is the city's fiscal agent and thus exercises general supervision over all officers that receive, collect, and disburse city revenues, including the city treasurer. The comptroller also has the ability to exercise the duties of the treasurer. So in the event there's an annual report that needs to be done, that has to be done and turned into the state every year. If the treasurer decides not to do that part of the treasurer's job, then the comptroller can do that if necessary. To be clear, the comptroller has general supervision over the city treasurer. So, now that we know everything that we know, now that we have at least an idea of how this works from a municipal code standpoint, not from what I feel or what somebody else feels, but from what the code says. Now that we know what we know, what next? There's still some things that we need to figure out. And if you just give me a little bit more time, not much, we'll go through it. So, with all that being said, on August 26th of last year, the city treasurer did attempt to provide a report to the city council, which is what's supposed to happen. But at that particular time, prior to providing the report, the council voted for the treasurer to do the following things. First, that the treasurer shall submit a report to the comptroller for review and accuracy. Now that's extremely important because we don't want the comptroller saying one thing as far as the finances are concerned and the treasurer saying another thing as far as the finances are concerned. We have a lot of things that we have to deal with here in the city of Harlem. Besides the fact that we're currently working on catching up with our audits, which we should be caught up sometime soon, but we also have to address other issues as far as our bondholders, as far as people who we are in debt to. So we have to make sure that those numbers reconcile with each other. So the comptroller can't be saying one thing and the treasurer is saying another. And so the council, the city council, instructed the treasurer to submit the report to the comptroller for review and accuracy. Second, that the review report is supposed to be submitted to the Finance Committee. So first, submitted to the Comptroller for review and accuracy, and then second, to submit it to the Finance Committee. All of this shall be done prior to bringing any report to the full City Council. That's what was voted on in August of 2024. Now, why is this important? Well, primarily, once again, the city is trying to get together its financial house, trying to get that financial house in order. And it's extremely important. With many of the things that we have going on, some of the things that you've heard from the department heads, we need to make sure that financial house is in order if we're going to start to, say for instance, apply for more of those grants, receive more of those grants, do the reporting for those things. We need to make sure that that financial house is in order. I, as the Chief Executive Officer, am the guy who is primarily responsible for making sure that that stuff is done. And believe you me, I'm putting foot in back in order to make sure that happens. And I have no reservations to do it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that that reporting reconciles, because it's good for our auditing and our bond purposes, to name a few. But since that time, the Treasurer, after being instructed by the City Council, has not submitted any reports to the Comptroller. Thus, those reports were not forwarded to the Finance Committee. So, of course, as you see, it says thank you. And this really isn't, and I also want to say, we could probably sit up here and start attacking each other as far as that's concerned. And I'm pretty sure some people will have their own opinions as far as what it is or what it isn't. The only thing that I'm trying to do is show you exactly what our code says. Okay, at the same time, trying to give you a better understanding when you hear people get up and talk about the city as if there is something nefarious going on financially because there's no treasurer report. There's nothing nefarious going on here. Bottom line is there's a process that needs to be followed, and that process has not been followed. And so what we want to do and what we hope to see in the future is we hope to see that process followed. We hope to see the Comptroller, and I am going to instruct and make sure that the Comptroller works together with the Treasurer to try to make sure that those reports are produced and that they are presented to you. But I want to make sure you understand how it works. So thank you very much for listening.